You're listening live to Right Side Radio with Bill Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Right Side Radio. Solid, conservative and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Right Side Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Right Side studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday. It is Taco Tuesday because that's oftentimes where we tie ourselves is to the food. So hit me some Taco Tuesday there, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right?
Yeah, Speedy Gonzalez says it. It's Taco Tuesday. And oh, by the way, pushing buttons on the board once again is the Butters. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm always hungry when we start a show.
Funny how that works out. I don't know why we keep doing that to ourselves, but
how has Right Side not gotten a taco sponsor at this point?
You know, if there's a taco sponsor out there, we're willing to talk. If there's a meatloaf sponsor out there, we're willing to talk. We'll sponsor you on Mondays. We'll sponsor you on Tuesdays. And if anybody owns a Camel, well, you can have Wednesdays.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you. Coming up at the beginning of hour number 2, Congressman Robert Aderholt calling in. Congressman Aderholt, of course, being part of our U.S. delegation from Alabama, is going to give us a straight skinny on where he thinks things are going with the big, beautiful bill, which just passed by a 51-50 vote in the Senate and now goes back to the House for basically a conference committee to adjust things and or say yes to it. So that's happening at the beginning of hour number 2. And then I still got a triple dipper just filled with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate. Oh, it's the big, beautiful update. Yeah, it is. The big, beautiful update. We got to talk about what just happened. So, yeah, 51-50 vote in favor of the bill's passage in the Senate. It now goes back to the House. The question is, can they get it done? Can they? I don't know. We'll talk about it, and that's in conjunction with our conversation also with Congressman Robert Aderholt. So stand by for that, the big, beautiful update. And then number 2, reconciling immigration. There's a lot of stuff in that big, beautiful bill that deals directly with immigration, but there's also a lot of things that are happening in and around the discussion about immigration that need to get reconciled. So it's a reconciliation bill, and we need to reconcile some issues. So I'm just calling it reconciling immigration. See what I did there? Reconciling immigration, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, listen, all y'all in the listening area right now are in red states. Georgia, you're a little purple sometimes, but red states for the most part. Red states. How about blue states? Have you ever noticed the difference? Can you see the exact same issue in 2 different places, a red state and a blue state, and what they mean? And I want you, by the way, to appreciate where you live, because red state, blue state is the name of the number 3 on the Triple Dipper, and you'll be amazed at some of what happens in some red states that blue states do just the opposite on. That's coming up number 3 in the Triple Dipper. All right, let me move into today's Right Side Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that the opening monologue, Right Side Way, every day is brought to you by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, a 30-year vet in the practice of law. And, oh, by the way, he is the daily sponsor, and I will tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a few minutes. All right, let me just say, okay, this week we dive into one of my favorite seasonal holidays. The 4th of July, always been one of my favorite times. I mean, probably because I was that kid who was usually not allowed to play with matches. And yet once a year, I was turned loose with bottle rockets, cherry bombs, and Black Cat firecrackers. And if you're old school enough, you remember when they actually sold kids a crazy, deadly thing called an M80. M80. The M actually stood for military because it was originally a military-grade pyrotechnic. M80s were outlawed in 1975. Sometimes government does get it right, just saying. But what about times, though, when the government oversteps? What about times when government is actually enforcing the laws or doing more than enforcing the laws? It's just enforcing government's role in your life. There's a time and a place for government. I get that. I believe that. There are essential services of government. There are roads to be built. There's schools to be run. And yes, there's actually laws to be enforced. But sometimes government gets way too big for its britches. Okay, I'm probably dating myself here, but did you ever watch some of the old black and white sitcoms? You'll see where I'm going here in a minute. I mean, Andy Griffith, the Beverly Hillbillies. Man, I did all the time. Classic humor, timeless characters. You remember on Andy Griffith, the two old sisters who had the moonshine still? Andy and Barney could never figure out where Otis the town drunk was getting his liquor. Well, it was Papa's recipe for medicinal purposes, you understand. Well, then, of course, there was the Beverly Hillbillies. Granny had her still. She was always on the lookout for the revenuers, those government men going to swoop in and put the kibosh on her moonshining. But that stuff was real, though. I mean, it was. Not far from where I live right now is the Talladega Superspeedway. Well, part of the history of NASCAR was the boys that would soup up old sedans, fill them up with homebrew, and outrun the law on the back roads. But I got to tell you, I've heard of it right here in my own area. I know one family that was so into moonshining here in Etowah County, they had a house out in the woods with a drive-through window. I kid you not. Folks would run out to the little old house in the woods on the dirt road in the backside of nowhere and pull right up to the drive-through window and get a mason jar full of shine. I know it's true because a friend of mine used to work for the law enforcement agency that was on a first-name basis with them. They'd get so mad every time my friend would arrest them, and then they go right back to moonshining again. There's also a road that I know of not far from where I'm sitting right now called 6 Foot Road. Legend has it years ago, it was the hub for a bunch of good old boys in the shine business. If you were found out there when you weren't supposed to be, you could end up 6 foot under. So now it's called 6 Foot Road, if you know what I mean. Yeah, but the revenuers, the G-men, the government boys. But that was also illegal activity, right? I mean, in the end, it makes sense that law enforcement, the government, if you will, would go after what is actually illegal. That's what they're there for, right? But what about when the G-men want to come into your business without any indications of illegal activity? No probable cause, no warrants, no court of law intervening to ensure you have due process. What if the IRS could just snoop through your records and see every ATM transaction, every time you bought milk and bread, every time you went out to dinner, every time you used your credit card or put money in a savings account or tried to plan for your retirement? Well, enforcement of the laws is what government's supposed to do. My friend who busted the moonshiners in our county, he was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But what about when the government gets so big that it no longer cares about whether you are actually acting illegally or not? They just want another trophy, another clampdown on speech, another regulation to prevent you from doing what your rights say you should be able to do. What about when government forgets its place and decides that you matter less than the government machine itself? I mean, it wasn't so long ago that a friend of mine right here in Alabama was the target of a weaponized IRS. In 2011, Becky Garrettson, who's been on this show many times and now runs the Alabama chapter of the Eagle Forum, a nonprofit conservative policy group. Well, back then, Becky was head of the Wetumpka Tea Party. And they applied for their 501c3 status, and it was delayed, and then it was denied, simply because Obama bureaucrat Lois Lerner chose to use her office for partisan reasons. Remember that? My friend Becky wound up making national news when she testified before Congress. More recently, I had another friend on the show from Texas. Bunny Pounds is her name. Bunny's the president of a Christian nonprofit called Christians Engaged. All they're designed to do is encourage Christians to be active in politics and community efforts. No naming of parties, but the IRS originally denied her nonprofit status because, in writing, they said that the Bible studies are more oftenly affiliated with Republicans. Oh, really? That's an admission. But they said that Bible studies are more often affiliated with Republicans, and therefore her group was considered partisan, and it took threats of legal action to get the IRS to recant its position. So what would the IRS do if it could access everything with no cause? If someone's cheating on their taxes and they have probable cause to believe so, then it's already a crime. Let's go subpoena the records. But if they can access the data they want, when they want, from whoever they want, without your protections or your knowledge, and then combine that with their history of abuse of process, and then increase their enforcement arm with new weapons and tactical gear, we could be looking at unprecedented levels of government retaliation against everyday citizens for reasons that unelected bureaucrats have a beef with just at the time. That, my friends, is the bullet we dodged when Trump was elected. Because if you remember, in 2021, when the unfortunately named misguided legislation championed by Pelosi and Schumer was passed, called the Inflation Reduction Act, what a name, what a lie. Did it reduce your inflation, by the way? I don't know any. Well, the answer is no. But the Inflation Reduction Act, it was a massive spending spree designed to grow government, and buried within it was a sneaky little provision that would have allowed the IRS to hire close to 87,000 new agents. 87,000 new IRS agents. Don't like the look of that series of legal deposits in your account? I'm sorry, we're going to have to audit your whole life. Don't like the political stance of your business? I'm sorry, you appear to be in jeopardy of losing your business license for partisan activities. Did you buy too many gun supplies according to them? Scrutiny, you must be a militiaman planning an insurrection. Did you donate to certain flagged charities? Investigate those charities while we're at it. All those jokes I gave you a moment ago about the revenuers, well, those were kind of tongue-in-cheek because most folks know that the law is still the law. But the big hand of government having oversight over the smallest aspects of your life, that's wrong on so many levels. It's activity like what I just described that led to the reasons why we now have a country. It's why we celebrate what I opened this monologue with, the 4th of July. Why we still talk about things like taxation without representation or unequal treatment under the law. It's just this kind of big government burdening that led to the patriots who called themselves the Sons of Liberty to go march on Boston Harbor and throw cases of British tea into the waters. We're watching right now as the big, beautiful bill just got passed. It worked its way through the machinations of the Senate, hopefully going back to the House now right away, and we'll see. But as much as we watch it and worry about spending, I got to say that we have also put our trust into an administration that has shown a good propensity to curtail government overreach, and I'm glad. Can you imagine where things would be if Trump had not been elected? In January of this year, only a few days into office, President Trump actually issued a cease and desist order to the IRS to halt their hiring and their growth. House Ways and Means Chairman, Republican Congressman Jason Smith, he said that it was a good thing he did so because the track of the IRS at the time was leading to the possibility of more invasive audits, which he would have said which he said would have been, quote, ripe for abuse, given that the agency has been out of control. That's the congressman saying that. He went on to say, quote, the American people overwhelmingly supported this move and they gave President Trump a mandate to end the weaponization of federal government. Yes, we did. So yeah, 4th of July is coming. 4th of July is right around the corner. 4th of July stands for all the things that I'm talking about not happening. 4th of July stands for being tired of an invasive government that has all control over every aspect of our life and could care less about the people and more about the government itself. Americans are not fond of all things government. Sure, I mean, there's those big government liberals and free spending politicians, but rank and file Americans, we still celebrate the 4th of July because we not only freed ourselves from tyranny, but in doing so, we established a limited form of government. We did. It's really that simple. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, there you have it. And yeah, I'll just tell you, Ronald Reagan once said, a government big enough to give you everything you want is a government big enough to take away everything you have. And it's true. And what almost happened with the IRS is it should be a lesson in how to curtail and put aside the idea of the growth of government. Trump did us a favor, and the fact that he got elected saved us from a big one. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Bunch of texts already coming in. Text me, come on, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. That's the text line. I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. Yes, I do. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year vet in the practice of law in North Alabama. Listen, I know Stan personally. I know what kind of lawyer he is. He's a good one. But he's also a guy who's been out there in the trenches, in the fray, in the mix, if you will, on all the issues, the politics, the policies that right side ruffians care about for years. So, yeah, Stan McDonald's an OG ruffian from way back. But, yeah, Stan McDonald has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. I like to say that he can represent you in any local, state, or federal court, that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversary would have no greater foe. So here's the bottom line. You need to get in touch with an attorney, Stan McDonald, North Alabama. There he is, Wilmer and Lee. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. I'll give it to you again. Stan McDonald, the phone number, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Right Side Radio. Oh, yeah. No representation made the quality of legal service before the great quality of service. How much? I don't know what I just said. No representation is made. The quality of legal service to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers, which is a farce, because I wouldn't advertise a bad lawyer on my show. He's not mediocre. I like him a lot. There. How do you like that for a disclaimer?
It's such a great example of lawyers screwing up their own advertising.
Screwing up their own advertising. You know what happened? Somewhere, some sorry lawyer lost out to some other sorry lawyer and said, I'll fix this. And now they have to do this.
I'm just glad we don't have to do those disclaimers with every business, because then nobody would buy anything, because no one would ever listen to a single ad. And that would be all we'd hear is disclaimers.
Have you ever read the disclaimers on the sides of packages? It's lawyers.
Sometimes it's very much takes me back to my Navy days. Sailor proofing stuff.
It's when in the Army, we call that Joe. Joe could screw stuff up. So yeah, you got to Joe proof it, and good luck with that. Speaking of Joe proofing it, I mentioned fireworks a while ago. Were you a fireworks guy as a kid?
I can neither confirm nor deny. We'd
you were trouble then.
We definitely did some fireworks wars, and some admittedly really dumb things with fireworks. But hey, you know what? I got all my my fingers and toes. So.
Listen, I still have a couple of scars. I'm pretty sure. If I look on my forearm, I think there it is. Okay, so all that to say, yeah, I loved fireworks, and so M80s. Now you're not old enough. You don't remember M80s, I'm sure.
Yeah, I remember M80s.
What?
We didn't play with them too much.
I'm like a decade older than you, I think, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little more.
Okay. Let me see your ID, please. No, but so M80s. I mean, I look back and I think, okay, I get why they banned that one. I did know a kid, by the way, who lost a finger. So there was always that fear as a kid. We're like, okay, I remember that one guy. His name was Bruce. He lost his finger. But yeah, M80s, cherry bombs. We actually, I had one bottle rocket war where one of the guys that I was with, he had M80s and cherry bombs that had been outlawed for several years, and his mom wouldn't let him bring them out until finally that year he turned like 13. So it's okay now. Apparently you're 13, you can bring them out. He had taken model paint and decorated each one over time. They sat in a little box on a cushiony, just waiting for the day. Brought him out the first time. Through the first one, it was a dud. But all it did was lure the opposition in, at which point he threw the second one. And oh my gosh, we won that war. I'm just saying. More on this, fireworks and all of it. The big, beautiful update. Send me your text messages. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show, this show. Woo, goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we once again call Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, watching us live stream every single day on places like Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook, our website, rightsidemedia.org, and then all you podcasters. I'm saying all that to say we got a bunch of y'all, and you find us in different ways, but we love the fact that you do, and you're the ones who make this worthwhile. So thank you to this audience. We appreciate you more than you can possibly know. I got a bunch of text messages. See what I can get here. Bruce from Springville says, in reference to your monologue, Thankful Thursday should be dedicated to having the muzzle put back on our intrusive government, thanks to the Constitution and Trump. Perfect. I like it. Connor from Huntsville says, Phil, really liked your monologue. The people who were complaining about the climate and environment at Alligator Alcatraz is laughable because that place was good enough for our airmen and others who were first responders who are forward advanced or hurricane support. So what I'm guessing through it all is it's better than the Paris Island where my Marine friends tell me the mosquitoes are about as big as Apache helicopters. Great show. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it, Connor.
And you got the sand fleas down there.
Sand fleas. Absolutely. Bob from Madison. He says, I got my t-shirt. It's awesome. Thank you. Bob, we're glad. Outstanding. You are a right side ruffian. Glad you got it. John from Huntsville. Phil, fantastic monologue. Also, did you hear that Elon Musk has finally completely lost his mind? Also, Butters and I just have to know, do you like Nutter Butters? Do I like Nutter Butters? Does a one-legged duck swim in circles? Yes. So I had Nutter Butters a couple nights ago for a snack. I found out that Charlene had bought some for the grandkids who were coming for the 4th of July, and I had to get into them. Make sure they were good.
I think he was asking me.
Oh.
I mean, it's your show, so of course.
Butters, I just have to. Oh, I thought you said Butters and I want to know. Oh. Hey, Butters, do you like Nutter Butters? Are you as passionate about it as I am?
I would say not, judging from your response, not quite as passionate, but I definitely will enjoy a Nutter Butter.
Well, just so you know, I'm a fan of Nutter Butters.
Clearly.
One of my favorites.
So if you're looking for a fan mail item, send Phil some Nutter Butters.
Do not send food. Do not send food. Do not send food. Did I mention that twice, 3 times? Do not send food. JT Lacey Springs says the irony of Trump's second term is how much he is blamed for the previous 4 years. Yeah, no doubt. Jeff from Athens says no representation is made that the quality of food served at this restaurant is better than the quality of food served at any other restaurant. See, nobody else in the world does that. Jeff spoofed off of it. That's perfect. Yeah, no representation made that the quality of medical service you're receiving here at this hospital is better than the one. Of course, you're not going to say that.
Then why are we advertising?
No representation made the quality of this radio show is any better than Dale Jackson's. Oh, well, yes, it is. Thank you very much. How's that for a disclaimer? Tell Dale I said so. He's on vacation. I'm getting away with it right now.
Nice.
David at Bucky says, Phil, when I was about 12 to 13, we used to light M80s and cherry bombs and drop them in hopefully empty garbage cans and put the lid on and wait for the lid to blow off. No doubt, man. And how many of y'all, by the way, stuck them inside like a Coke bottle or something? That'll create some fun. David from Huntsville says, I hear the Republicans say that the bill, I guess he's talking about the big, beautiful bill, makes the tax cuts permanent, but I hear the news media say the bill extends the tax cuts. Do you know which it is? My understanding, unless they change something at the last minute during the vote-a-rama they just had, is that it does make them permanent. So there's that. Tom from Decatur says, I see the parliamentarian managed to get the illegals receiving Medicaid out of the bill, claiming it needed 60 votes to pass. Why would an illegally receiving money from the government even have to be in a government spending bill? You know, it's a great question, but what they were doing was, keep in mind, Medicaid is a state issue. So what they were doing was putting a stringer on the federal match dollars that are sent to the states. So like in Alabama, we're not giving illegals Medicaid, but in some states like California, they certainly are. In fact, they're calling them to please come use our Medicaid system. So what this was a federal provision saying when we send you those matching funds, they cannot be used for this or you sacrifice them. I heard that about the parliamentarian. I have not seen an official response on this. I just saw social media saying it. So Tom, if you've got something like an article that gives me more details, I'd love to see it, because that was all kind of fluid and happening right before I went on the air. But I did see a headline saying the parliamentarian had indeed ruled that they could not have that provision in the final version of the bill. More to come on that issue.
Because in 2025, we have to debate over whether someone that violated the law to come into the country is actually violating the law or not.
I think you summed it up quite well. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, I laugh at M80s. Haha, I was a blaster for a coal mine. I used to set off hundreds of pounds of explosives at a time with primer cord. Now that was a bang. I'm sure it was, man. What a great job.
Not as an 11-year-old, though. Come on.
That's true. You weren't blowing up trash cans as an 11-year-old. No, you weren't, Jeff from Indiana. Thank you very much. He also said, Phil, if the founding fathers would have seen what government is today, what they started out with the Constitution, I have absolutely no doubt they would take up arms against it because it's become unrecognizable for what it's supposed to be. Wow. TC from Priceville says, I was always told they were called M80s because they were originally 1/8 of a full of a stick of dynamite. I had heard the same thing. Back in the 80s, we'd get the M1000 from Mexico. Holy cow, did you really? The M1000, supposedly they were 1/4 of a stick of dynamite. Well, we accidentally turned a wooden mailbox into 1,000,000 toothpicks while at the same time setting off every car alarm on the street. Good times. TC, you were a child after my own heart. Thank you very much. And then John C. from Madison, last one, says July 4th, 1976, we were shooting fireworks and watching the big fireworks display for the 200th anniversary of the U.S. I asked my father at that time what the fireworks would be like in the year 2000. He told me that he would not make it to the year 2000. He died in September of 97. Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. So the last time I bought fireworks, I spent over $2,000 to honor his memory. It was a fun night, definitely money up in smoke. I do miss my father. John C., poignant memories. Thank you for sharing. And blessings on you. I got to go one more, man. They keep coming in. What you got?
So one quick Google search says it's 80 grams of powder is where the M80 comes from.
Oh, wow. Then what's an M1000 then?
I'm guessing 1,000 grams,
Oh.
but I will dig deeper into Google.
How about an M1000? What is that? That is deadly. That's what that is. That's called a artillery simulator. Now, those were fun, by the way. Don't ever get caught stealing those things because that's a controlled item. But we used to have artillery simulators, and they made the mistake of giving me the option of using them for, I don't know, maybe a little activity one night. Yeah, it almost resulted in bad things happening. But everybody walked away. It's all good. I have stories. I still have scars. And then Jeff from Athens says, a prominent business owner here in Athens now was a teenager who lived across the street from me when I was in my 20s, and we had bottle rocket wars across the street. Yes, you did. We used to have them out in the street. We tried to skip them off the pavement and catch people. You know, you think you're free, and all of a sudden, skipping and chasing your feet. Too much fun, man. Good times. All right, let's jump into the topic here, because what just happened today is, well, let's just say that the last 10 days for the Trump administration have been high stakes and good results. I don't care whether I'm not asking you to like the big, beautiful bill right now. What I'm saying is Trump wanted it. It's his agenda, and he got it passed on top of all the things that happened last week with the Supreme Court rulings. And then, you know, the immigration findings and the fact that we had a report come out showing that 0 illegals had been allowed into the country last month. It was one thing after another. The only thing he didn't get was the interest rates to drop, with Jerome Powell continuing to resist that, which, by the way, is another story that I might get to tomorrow. But there were a number of things in this big, beautiful bill. And it was an omnibus legislation. So there's that word. Omnibus legislation, meaning that it was a variety of things put together into one bill. Now, they all had to fit. And when I say it had to fit, there are still rules. Yesterday, I spent a good bit of time talking about the rules and procedures of the Senate. There are still rules, and the construct of a bill has to be germane to certain rules and has to fit, basically. You can't just slam anything into a bill and call it omnibus. In this case, that's why they have the parliamentarian. the parliamentarian who has really aggravated some people this time around. And I'm not sure why they kept the same parliamentarian. Maybe they should have hired their own people. But the parliamentarian ruled that there were several provisions that did not fit and had to be revised. And they did. They revised most of them and got it done. But one of the things that was also in the bill, because all of this, by the way, all this, it was technically a budget reconciliation / spending bill. I say, Phil, I thought it was about like tax increases. Correct. That's a revenue issue. I thought it was about the ability to stop illegal immigration. It is, through budgetary means allocated to certain things. And you can go down the line, but everything had to fit together, and it had to be a revenue item. And because of the way reconciliation process works in the Senate and the House, it had to be something that was not longer than 10 years in length. In other words, it had to have its results, and it had to be either permanent now or staged in and phased in with a result within 10 years. That's why when you hear them say things like reducing spending till 2035, because it had to fit. One of the things that was in there, though, was the Trump tax cuts. So you may remember in the last go round, we saw major tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, which one of the greatest stories I ever heard was Mark Meadows. I was at a small group setting with Club for Growth up in DC. Mark Meadows spoke to us. He told the most incredible story about how when the first Trump tax cuts came, it was him and I believe Jim Jordan. And they had written down what they thought was a good idea for a series of tax cuts. And they kind of went back and forth. He said, I'm pretty sure Jim Jordan finished his on the hood of his truck in a Walmart parking lot back home. And we sent it back and forth to each other. He said, and then all of a sudden I get summoned to the Oval Office. He said, I'm just a rank and file guy, but I get summoned in. And I get in there, and my gosh, there's the entire cabinet. And they're all sitting there. And I'm looking around going, what's going on? And they said, hey, and Trump says, sitting at the Oval Office, at the Resolute desk, says, Meadows, sit down over here. And has me sit right next to the Resolute desk. And he says, Trump's going, okay, these tax cuts, what do you think? And he starts looking around the room, asking his people why they can't do this. Well, Mr. President, we don't know. It might be a little bit. We can do it. Why can't we do it? Tell me why we can't do it. And it just kind of went down the line, and he looked over at Meadows and said, if I do this, can you get it passed? Yes, sir, we can. He still to this day has the hand-signed copy of the notes of the Trump tax cuts that he and Jim Jordan had done on the hood of a truck in the Walmart parking lot, framed and hanging on his wall. The only thing that happened that had to be dealt with now was that those tax cuts were passed into law, but they had a sunset provision on them. Because back then, the only way they could get them passed was to have a sunset. In other words, it would expire at a certain point, which is such a lame thing. I hate it when that happens. But in this case, what we're looking at is taking the Trump tax cuts and making them permanent. The Senate just passed it. It's now going to the House. The Trump tax cuts were included. Had they not been included, it would have been a massive, like the biggest tax increase in our nation's history. So part of Trump's domestic tax and spending agenda includes a $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, in addition to the extension of the other Trump tax cuts. That's Fox News. I'm telling you right now, this was a huge bill, and it had a lot of moving parts. Right now, we'll take a break. I'll come right back, and I'll tell you, though, those Trump tax cuts, among other provisions, I think are going to be game changers, and we'll wait and watch, but I think they are. In the meantime, though, Elon Musk is just mad. I'll tell you more about that, too. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. So this big, beautiful bill just passed in the Senate. It's going back to the House. What happens is, I mean, some of y'all may be saying, it already passed the House. No, so what happens is, if it's got to be, it's got to be passed by both bodies before it goes to the executive branch for a signature by the president. But and I know I'm saying things that most of you already know, but I'll say it anyway, just for background. It's once you pass it through one body, in this case the House, because if I'm not mistaken, being a budgetary matter, it has to originate in the House of Representatives in Congress. So it passed there, it went across over to the other side of the building, and it went through the Senate processes. They had, oh my gosh, listen, there are times when I get really irritated thinking, do they do any work up there? There are other times I look at it and go, wow, old boys are working. So they pulled an all-nighter. They got it done around midday today. It passed out of the Senate. But now, because the Senate made changes, it has to go back to be approved by the House. And you can lose some votes that way. You can actually have somebody who said, that thing that I needed to get my vote in the House, I've decided they took it out in the Senate. Therefore, you've lost my vote. That can happen. But, yeah. Can
the House make changes?
They can. At that point, you have to go to conference committee and figure out, okay, what are we going to do? So yes, the House can make changes. The House can reject. The House can vote it down. So it does not have to go through the entire committee process, because it's already done that, but it does have to go through a floor process for the approval of the reconciliation. Right now, what we're waiting and watching to see is, how's the mood? What's the House going to say? In a few minutes, we're going to have Congressman Robert Adderhold on here. Here's my prediction. I think there will be some lamenting. I think there will be some who want to see certain things done differently. I also think there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I believe they will probably get it passed. Today's Tuesday. I would bet that by Wednesday night, Thursday morning, they will have it on the way to the president's desk, and there will be a bill signing ceremony for the 4th of July. So that's my prediction right now. Wait and watch and see. I will say this. It's very disappointing to me to watch the way Elon Musk is handling all this. And I get it. Elon Musk has got the biggest stick right now in the world because he owns X. He can say what he wants to say. He's also a multi-billionaire, richest man in the world. And he also feels like, he's in large part a big piece of why Trump got elected. And I agree. I think he is. I don't think he was the reason, but I think he was a reason. And I do believe that what Elon has done with taking back X and loosing it for free speech has been absolutely massive. And I admire everything about it. But I've been very disappointed in the way that he has handled his own disappointment with this bill. I mean, as bombastic as Trump can be at times, Elon has been twice that, even to the point of threatening. So Elon comes out yesterday and says, the Republicans are nothing but the Porky Pig Party because this is a pork bill. And he argued that, it was going to raise debt and all the yada, yada. But he didn't just go there. He came out then and said he intends to put billions into funding the brand new American Party for politics, putting a third party in. Okay, you can try that. But are you really going to get there? I don't know. We've been a three-party, government in the past. We used to have the Whigs, back in the 1800s. Is it time? I don't know. All I know is what you still watch was democracy. I may not like everything in the bill either. I will tell you that if I was there, I would have voted for it. But I'm not. So all I'm doing is watching from afar saying, please curtail that spending. Please get that down. But I really like that part, and I really like that part, and I really like that part. And I would hate to have seen the bill not go through and not codify those Trump tax cuts. I would hate to have not addressed the border and given Tom Homan and Kristi Noem what they need. I would hate to have seen the Department of Defense not get what it got out of the piece of legislation, and a number of other things that are built in. And I love what I'm seeing there. The spending piece, this is where I get down to, jeez, Pete, can they get my vote? Well, it looks like I'm a 90% friend on this one. 90% friend is still better than 100% enemy. Elon Musk is turning himself into a 100% enemy on this issue, and I hope that goes away. I will say this, there are a number of House representatives. Thomas Massey says he'll never vote for it, and they probably won't, and he and Trump are sideways. Representative David Valadio from California has said he's probably not going to vote for it unless he likes the Medicaid provisions more. The House Freedom Caucus is dubious. One Representative Nick LaLota, from New York, is worried about whether he's got enough for his state in it. We'll see. Coming up next, though, is one guy who might know. Congressman Robert Aderholt on the line. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Right Side Radio with Bill Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Right Side Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Right Side Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Right Side studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Taco Tuesday, because so often it revolves around food. Taco Tuesday. But yeah, hour number 2, and we're kicking it off by bringing in somebody who's been on the show multiple times. Congressman Robert Aderholt represents the 4th Congressional District of the state of Alabama. He has been representing us for a number of years now, ably as a Republican. He's the senior member, I believe, of our Alabama House delegation, and he's also a senior member, a ranking member on the Committee on Appropriations. And I'm going to get the word from him right now as to what he believes is going to happen with the big, beautiful bill. Congressman Robert Aderholt, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, Phil. Good to be with you.
Good to have you. Thank you for making time. I appreciate it. This was kind of the spur of the moment thing. The Senate got it passed, and I reached out to you right away and appreciate you being able to come in on short notice. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm actually sort of on standby. I've been the last 2 or 3 days. I've been just on standby waiting to see what was going to happen on the Senate side. We expected this to actually pass over the weekend, if not before. And of course, as I know you've been following, and your listeners too, it's drug on for quite some time. So it's finally over into the House, and right now the information that I am getting that we could have a vote as early as 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock we'll start debate, and then a vote thereafter. So the first vote will be on the rule. We always vote, unlike the Senate, which one of the reasons that they were going through all these, I don't know what word of the machinations that they've been going through over the last few days is because they don't really have a rule, and therefore any senator can bring up an objection and therefore object to it. So, and they needed every vote on it. In the Rules Committee, we set out what the parameters of the debate will be, and then we move forward.
Okay.
And of course, obviously, it is going to be, we have to get the votes for a rule, but and that'll be the first vote that we'll have tomorrow to decide whether this bill passes or fails.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing a mixed bag. I mean, you guys have already passed it once, so I think a lot of the heavy lifting was done, but there were changes made in the Senate. By the way, let me ask you this, first of all, to your understanding, and I realize a lot of it's still fresh, how much was made in the way of changes from the House version?
There were several changes that were made, as you mentioned, but there were a lot of things that stayed in place. And we are still trying, I'm still trying to make sure that I've got a good handle on all of the changes from our version to the Senate version. But I do know, the basic things that are in this bill is that it's a reporting requirement for Medicaid. It requires Medicaid recipients to prove their eligibility twice a year instead of annually. And the expanded work requirements are included, but exempts caregivers for dependent children or for pregnant women, among others. But of course, obviously, what everybody has been talking about is the fact that this saves the 2017 Trump tax cuts.
Right.
And it makes sure that we can go forward and not face a $4 trillion tax increase on the American people, which is the highest ever peacetime tax increase that we've seen in this nation. And so it also guts a lot of the Biden agenda regarding the green energy tax credits. So that's always something that's been very, a lot of us that have wanted to see that. Also, it improves the, and something that I actually was involved in was the adoption tax credit.
Oh, yeah.
It allows up to $5,000 to be refundable to people who are going through adoptions. As you know, adoptions can be very expensive, and this increases that number to allow more up to $5,000 to be allowed on your taxes for an adoption. And so this is great news for all of us who believe in the importance of the family and try to encourage adoption. I am the co-chair in the House of the Adoption Caucus, and this is something that is great news, I think, for everybody who supports adoption. And quite honestly, I think everybody supports adoption in some form or fashion. And then it also this no tax on tips is included in this, and then no tax on overtime.
Right.
So there is a lot of good things in this bill.
I think there are a lot of things for border security. I know we're built in, and then there's issues.
Yes, 46.5 billion.
Yeah. Let me ask you, one of the points of contention appears to be the spending cuts. House sent out its version that had spending cuts, which, there were those who thought it still wasn't enough, and those who thought that they had met the requirement, and those that just had to go ahead and swallow it and take it. And everybody's got their different opinion. But now the spending cuts are different coming back. I just saw a moment ago, right before you came on the air, the Freedom Caucus is now saying this bill could take some time, and they are expressing concern that the spending cuts are not what they agreed to as it left the House before. What are your thoughts right now? The Freedom Caucus, are they going to be able to get behind the bill? They did once, but are they going to get it again?
Well, and you raise a very good question, because first of all, let me say there is no perfect bill that comes out of any legislative body that's run by man. You know that from your time working in a legislative body. I know that there's always some issue in every bill. So what we have to be careful is make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Obviously, there's things that those of us in the House, we wanted to see the spending levels to be lower, but we certainly don't want to have the largest tax increase in American history either.
Yeah.
So that's a fine line. But at the end of the day, I think the Freedom Caucus will be on board, and I think of us all wanting to make sure that we pay attention to out of control spending. It's not just the Freedom Caucus. I think it's every Republican member of Congress does. So I think we're all concerned about that, but at the same time, we certainly want to make sure that we try to fund the border wall, that we put more money in for defense. The Golden Dome is included in this. The adoption tax credit, as I mentioned. There's just so many good things in this bill that we can, I think, say is a job well done in this bill. And again, it's not perfect, but neither is any bill that I have ever seen come out of Washington, D.C. or a legislative body.
No, that's
so. I think it may take some time. I just don't know what's going to happen with the rule vote tomorrow. I know earlier some of the members were threatening to vote against the rule and take down the rule if it increased some of the spending that obviously is actually in the bill. But the president is very keen on getting this passed. If you support President Trump and his policies, then the vote is a yes vote tomorrow, even on the rule.
And Congressman, let me ask you, one of the things that's been talked about a lot is the increase to the debt limit. And I pointed out to some folks yesterday that while that may be frustrating, I get it. It does not mean it's an increase in the debt. It's like putting an extra balance on the credit card. You have space on the credit card, so to speak. It doesn't mean you spend it, although there's always the fear that it could get spent. But the reality is that is not what's happening right now. When we say we're increasing the debt limit, if you might want to explain that for a minute, what we're really doing is just raising the amount of space on the credit card, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think you said it very well. It's just increases the ceiling by $5 trillion. And of course, obviously, in a perfect world, we would not increase the debt ceiling by $1. But the president feels very strongly. I was in a meeting with him about a month ago, and he feels very strongly that he doesn't want to get involved in our markets crashing. And he is concerned that if the debt ceiling is not raised to give us that flexibility, then we could have a market crash. And no one wants to see that. The economy tank. And so that's why we need to have that debt ceiling increase. But again, it's the debt ceiling is increased. It doesn't mean that you reach the ceiling. It just means that the ability is put in there so that we can have that flexibility.
Okay. And last question, if you know, because I think everything's, fairly fresh, but there is talk on social media, and I take that with a big grain of salt, but there's talk on social media that towards the end of the Senate's votorama, that the parliamentarian had decided that the removal of the provision that would have prevented Medicaid to illegal aliens was taken out. Do you know whether it has or not?
I do not know that. That will be something I will check, but that is something that I know would be a big concern to everybody, and so we'll be taking a look at that. And like I said, my office, we're just now, because it's really been within hours since really lunchtime, right before lunchtime, that this final bill was put out. So we will be checking that, because I know that's of interest to a lot of people. But I will say that this bill will give or will provide over 46 billion in border funding, and that builds the wall while providing support for our agents and our officers. So that's very important for those of us who support the border funding.
All right. Well, Congressman, listen, you guys got your work cut out for you. I'm sure the Senate's on their planes heading home, but you guys have got things to do trying to get this to the president before the 4th of July recess. So good luck to you, and thank you for the update today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Phil, and thanks for having me on, and we look forward to maybe after all this gets passed, we'll circle back with you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, that was Congressman Robert Adderholt, representing the 4th Congressional District. He is the dean of the delegation, if you will. He's the senior member of our House delegation. He's also a senior member of the House Appropriations Committee. We'll take a break right now. We'll come back from this break and just take some text messages and clean things up. But yeah, it is happening, man. Big, beautiful bill. I mean, this is like a ton of stuff that we all voted for is wrapped up in one bill. And if it passes, it's going to be massive. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, well, love it or hate it, the Senate bill passed. The Senate version of the big, beautiful bill passed. So I'll be honest with you. I feel like this bill had to pass. I feel like it was one of those things that you could not pass this bill because there was so much wrapped up in it that we needed to have happen. And I share your angst, some of y'all, about the spending. I did not want to see a debt limit increase, but I also know what was going to happen. We were going to be just down the road a little bit, and there's going to be something that we wound up having to deal with. And suddenly we were going to be up against a wall, and the Democrats were going to hold it over our head and make it a block to anything that we needed to do. That's to remove that obstacle. And it's painful, but it's true. We've got to get it under control, and I recognize that. And here's the other thing that's going to happen. I've got to trust right now. That's all I can do. I know some of you are saying, why trust them? Well, because they're not the same ones who were in charge last year. That's why. But I got to trust them because they're the ones I voted for. In that, I will say, they have already committed that we're getting back to what's known as the regular order of business. And the regular order of business is indeed that, yes, we're going to wind up seeing a budget process that brings it back around to what is known as regular order. We haven't had that in years. Schumer and Pelosi loved the idea of doing continuing resolutions. They haven't passed a real budget in God knows when. The regular order of business is where each committee, defense, you got the subcommittees on energy or whatever else, you got all of them that were budgetary items are supposed to have their independent portion of the budget go through committee processes, be vetted, be massaged, be worked, be debated. They put it together and they forward it to appropriations, and appropriations compiles it into the budget. And then they pass a consolidated budget that has been agreed upon through the regular order of business. That has not happened in years because Democrats hate that. So they kept passing CRs, continuing resolutions, which is a fancy way of saying, we don't feel like doing a budget, so let's do the same thing we did last year, plus a little bit extra. And then they'd pass a separate bill. And if you notice, it was going to be a entirely separate bill, like, the Inflation Reduction Act. What's that for? Big things. That's not a budget? Oh, no. It was a budget buster, but it was separate and stood alone.
Yeah, it's crazy when I think about the fact that almost my entire naval career was spent under CRs.
Oh yeah,
almost the entire 20 years I was in and around the Navy.
Senator Britt on this show committed that they were getting back to regular order of business, but they had to get through this season they were in right now. They had to get through this season. Now the problem we got is that if they don't, there's going to be a whole lot of ticked off people. They've got to, they can't not let us get put up against the wall with government shutdowns and continuing resolutions again. We got to see it happen. And they say it's going to start happening like this, this fall. So get the big, beautiful bill passed, and then let's see the regular order of business take over.
I will say, doing the newsletter this week, that was the poll that I threw in there was basically, do you think it's going to make it better or worse? 100% of the responses we've gotten make it better.
Okay.
Make things better. So,
everybody wants to keep the tax cuts. Everybody wants the border strengthened. Everybody wants the DOD to be able to do its job. Everybody wants to see, good things happen with, by the way, there's other tax cuts in here. You heard him mention a moment ago, the overtime tax cut, which, by the way, state Republicans couldn't pass, but they're doing it in DC. And then there's the tax relief on other things, like he mentioned adoptions. There's also tax relief on tips. If you're an hourly wage worker that gets tips, you can get tax free on your tips for federal. Listen, there's a lot of things built in here that are really, really good. And then they began to curtail Medicaid, and Medicaid had to get curtailed. And the Democrats don't want that, and the weak-kneed Republicans don't want that, and the blue states don't want that, because they all expanded Medicaid. Alabama's one of those who stood in the gap and said, we are not going to expand our Medicaid. And so it doesn't mean as much here as it does in some other places where they took on so much, and now they want more federal dollars. And they said, we're not going to keep sending federal. We're going to go back to where we were, hopefully before COVID at the very least. All I know is this: that bill had to pass. It is out of the Senate. It is headed back to the House. There's more work to be done. But ideally, we're going to see this thing coming out to a floor for a procedural vote tomorrow morning. Procedural vote will tell us exactly where we are in terms of everybody's mood, and then we'll keep moving forward, and hopefully we'll see it on the president's desk by the time the 4th of July fireworks are set off. That would be something. All right, coming right back, I got a bunch of text messages. Y'all chime in. What do you think about it? You got any thoughts? 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Tell me. I'm going to read them out when I get back. Y'all stay tuned. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio. Radio, solid, conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. I mean, it goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning! And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all of y'all who podcasted after the fact. Thank you very much. And a whole bunch of y'all that live stream the show every single day on YouTube, X, on Rumble, on our Facebook, or God, what else, on our website, rightsidemedia.org. Thank you very much. Y'all are the reason why all of this is done. By the way, I got to say, Butters sitting right here, so I will just go ahead and say Butters has set y'all up. He has fixed y'all up. So if you've ever wanted a Right Side Media or Right Side Radio t-shirt, hat, coffee mug, one of our bench shot glasses, which is very cool, stickers, all the stuff, all our Right Side merch is available on our website, rightsidemedia.org, rightsidemedia.org. Go to the shop tab. All the merchandise is there. Butters has set y'all up because this is 4th of July week. Special promo code Liberty. Just use the word Liberty when you're checking out. It'll ask for a promo code. How's that work, bud? It just asks for a promo code as you're checking out, and you type it in?
Yep, where you,
right.
You get a little coupon discount, plug that in there.
Yeah. And so you use the word Liberty, automatic 10% discount. Am I right?
10%, and you might get a little something extra on a little something,
that's right.
extra.
That's right. That's right. He did fix y'all up. So if you bought a t-shirt, even with the discount, you can get one of our cork bottom coffee mugs with an additional discount because you bought the t-shirt. He's like bundling stuff now, just giving stuff away over there, man.
Yeah, y'all don't tell Phil, but I slid that out there before he had a chance to say no. So
don't tell Phil. Okay. Yeah, go to the shop, check it out, get some Right Side merch, wear it proudly. We do have Liberty is the promo code, and we do have the Right Side Media History of the American Flag shirt, which is really good for 4th of July week.
We've had a few purchased yesterday.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
But if you're watching online, I just dropped the link straight to our merch store in the comments. So make it easy for you.
That's wizardry.
Go check that out, and I'll throw in a shameless plug. Hit that like, share, and yeah. Let's get some more folks on here.
All right, good deal. All right, let me get some text messages and stay current with all your thoughts and your ruminations. John C. from Madison says, we threw an artillery simulator in the commander's tent. He got a little irritated. Whew. Wow. I know one dude. Now, if you were a tanker, there used to be a simulation. I think they called it a Hoffman device, and it was to simulate a tank firing. You put it in the barrel and boom. And he actually got hold of a Hoffman device, lit it off inside one of the ROTC buildings at Texas A&M, which has a huge cadet corps. He lost his commission. So, oh boy, never wound up getting his butter bar. He did not make second lieutenant. Hoffman device inside the building. Bad thing. Don't do it.
Well, as I've told you during the break, we never used our EA6B Prowler in any sort of inappropriate.
Goodness.
I mean,
I would expect nothing
different. But professionalism in the United States
Navy.
Navy
Guys always toeing the line, man. JT Lacey Springs says we used to use M80s in creeks and watch the fish float up. That's how strong they were. You could do M80 fishing, and they were waterproof because they were sealed on both ends. I remember that. Yes. Paul from Athens says, strange that a dim bill sneaks in overnight and no one gets to read it, but Republican Trump bill gets scrutinized. Yeah, that's the way it works, man. Nancy Pelosi, we'll have to vote for it to find out what's in it. Okay, but then they're going to talk all about the fact that we've got this bill. Never mind the fact that it was debated and then debated some more.
I know there's some frustration, not to get down a rabbit hole, but I know there's frustration that it seems a little harder with it going back and forth between the House and the Senate and everything. But isn't that the way the founding fathers designed it? Intentionally, it was meant to be hard to do legislation.
That's right. Good point. Intentionally designed to be hard. Not you don't want it to be so easy that everything just goes flying willy-nilly and it's chaos. Yeah, you don't want a free fire zone with bills. Now, by the way, there's going to be non-controversial bills that get passed without any trouble at all. You have no idea how much actually gets passed that you don't ever see because it's not going to be a clickbait title. This one is a big deal. A lot of the things that happen.
It's a big, beautiful deal.
It's a big, beautiful bill. Yes. But yeah, there's a lot of things that happen in your state capital as well as in DC that you don't even know is there because the press never reports on them because they're kind of mundane. They're part of keeping government moving. They're part of, just tweaking old law and bringing it up to date or whatever else. But then there's these big ones, man, and they shouldn't be easy. But I will say this, Democrats complaining that they had no idea what was what, they got a lot more respect in this process than Pelosi ever gave Republicans. And they also, oh, by the way, if you didn't read it, where have you been? Because the bill was published and it went through the entire House process and came across to the Senate and you knew what was there. And oh, by the way, we know you knew what was there because y'all spent the last, 18 hours trying to drop amendments on it, which meant you had to know what was there to be able to amend it. So anyway, maybe they didn't read 914 pages straight through, but they knew what was in there.
They didn't sit and listen to it being read. Wasn't that?
That's so farcical. That is so lame, man. I saw that in Montgomery constantly. Democrats would get mad because the bill was coming, to the floor and the final vote was already called for. They couldn't filibuster anymore. So then they would move to have the bill read at length for no other reason except to be dilatory. Just dilatory. Use that word in a Scrabble game and you'll win. Dilatory. What does it mean? It means they're recalcitrant. Recalcitrant too. What does that mean? It means that they are literally just jackwagons. That's what it means. Mr. President, I move to have the bill read at length. Senator moved to have the bill read at length. The clerk will read the bill. And it might be a page and a half, and they'd still do it. And then there's the times, though, like we had the bill for redrawing the lines for, for all the Senate and House districts. My gosh.
Gerrymandering?
Yes. That bill, by the way, they moved to have it read at length, and it was scheduled to last 27 hours. And that's with a machine reading it. That's in Alabama. I will say this. One of the things that happens is if they move to read the bill at length, which is a throwback to the days when you didn't have copy machines or PDF attachments to an email, they would, we've got to hear the bill first because we haven't had a chance to see it because technology is not, you've got technology now and it's still in the rules. And so they would have the bill read at length. That bill that I told you about that was 27 hours. The only purpose was to slow things down and make everybody mad. Well, I'd never seen this happen in DC, but that's exactly what the Democrats did. But they don't have a machine. In Montgomery, we had a machine. The guy would start off reading, he would read the first page, and then he would hit play, and it would take over. And it would have a computer voice reading it like this as it went down, and they could even dial it up, which is useless. You can't even understand what it's saying at some point. Dial that bad boy up. Run it, baby. Run it. Give it a Red Bull. But then, yeah, the folks in DC, they had live clerks have to stand there and read every 914 pages.
I bet that made the Doge tech guys furious. Why not have ChatGPT read it in a British accent or
like the navigator I used to have, whose name was Mandy, had a British accent. Oh, turn left, please. Oh, blimey, Governor, turn left. Read the bill in a British female accent.
Crazy.
I just chased that rabbit for a few minutes. Bill from North Alabama says, Phil, I once mistakenly put my personal duffel bag on the train coming back from JRTC and flew home with a duffel of pyrotechnics, artery sims, parachute flares, star cluster, smoke grenades. We went straight into our Christmas leave, and I found out I made the mistake while home at my parents' farm. So we decided we'd have a great New Year's fireworks show, blew the windows out of part of the farmhouse and set the back 40 on fire. Dad was not happy. You got a laugh track over there somewhere, man. You got to play it. That's great. Bill from North Alabama with maybe the most epic. I got away with some stuff. Duffel bag. How do you mistakenly get a duffel bag full of artery similars? Oh my gosh. Yeah. By the way, star clusters and parachute flares. Now they come in a stick, and you take the top off, put it on the bottom, and then you hit it on a rock or something hard, and it hits it. Well, I was out one time in the swamps, no place to set it off. I had to do it to launch the ambush, and I thought, I know what, I'll just slap it against my thigh. I had no idea. First of all, hitting it against my thigh was like hitting myself with a hammer, which then had a jet propellant attached to it, which drove it even further into my thigh. The bruise on my thigh was of epic scale, like contusion.
You Army guys, y'all, everything we play with, at least in my side of the Navy, is way too big to do stuff like that. So
ambush went off without a hitch, though.
Nice.
I was limping, but ambush went off without a hitch. Bruce from Springville says, it appears Elon Musk is going the same route as Ross Perot did politically. It does sound like that. Like he's going to try a third-party run. I don't know. And who knows? Maybe Elon will calm down. Maybe he'll get past it. Trump said some things, and Trump's mad. Trump said maybe we ought to have Doge take a look at Elon. I hope they calm down. I loved when they were friends. It was a hoot to watch them together. They're better together, in my opinion. I think Elon's going to come back around, but he hated the fact that this particular bill did away with the Green New Steel, which meant that all the EV mandates went away in this bill, and his Tesla company relied on those to some degree. I don't think that's really why Elon was totally mad, but I think it hurt nonetheless. Cooter from Huntsville says, Phil, that was my question. Are the cuts in Medicaid the Dems are up in arms about? Cuts to keep illegals from having access to it. 11 million folks losing health care. I hope they left it in the bill. Cooter from Huntsville. I'm waiting to find out too, Cooter. If you find out, text me the link to it. Bill from Huntsville says, John Thune, Senator Thune, needs to fire the parliamentarian. I can't believe a Henry Reid appointee has so much control. Infuriating. I don't disagree with that. The parliamentarian has a role, and you can work with the parliamentarian, and they're supposed to be nonpartisan. But if your parliamentarian is somebody who was hired by Harry Reid, it's automatically suspect, in my opinion. John M. from Huntsville says, Phil, now that the bill is passed, the Senate, does it keep bouncing back and forth between the House and Senate? No, my understanding is what will probably happen is the House will likely concur with the changes. And right now they're working on that very thing. If it doesn't concur, then it goes to conference, and the two will put a conference committee together who will then make a report out of conference, and we hopefully will get everybody agreeing with the conference committee. So that's what I anticipate will happen. Jeff from Indiana, Phil, if it wasn't for J.D. Vance doing the deciding vote, which senator would have folded? I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't have been Rand Paul, and it wouldn't have been Tom Tillis. So I think it would have been probably Susan Collins, because she was the holdout. No Democrats were going to vote for this. And then last one for the break, David at Bucky says, Phil, the Democrats didn't know what was in the bill because they were sleeping while it was being read. No doubt. They didn't care. They didn't sit in the chamber to hear it be read because that was very important. They laughed and went down the hall and left the clerks, probably just, hourly worker, college kids, clerks, having to read that sucker out loud. All right, that was a ramble. Coming back up after the break, we'll be jumping on into what is happening with the southern border. What is happening with immigration, illegal immigration? What is happening with CNN doxing ICE agents? I'll tell you more about it. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Hey, by the way, I'm going to go on to this next topic in a minute, but I got to tell you, there's breaking news. So the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, has just announced that the University of Pennsylvania, Penn, has agreed to resolve all of its Title IX violations. You may recall Penn is where everything broke with this guy that calls himself Leah Thomas. I've forgotten what his male name was, but calls himself Leah Thomas, dude swimming and girls swimming. They're now claiming that what they're going to do is they're going to publicly apologize as a university for allowing that to happen. They are going to wipe out all of the records that were in his name and give them back to females who rightfully had earned them. So they're restoring all the stolen records and titles, and they're issuing personal apologies to any impacted female swimmer. If that's all true, that's a big deal. That's a huge breakthrough. That's where everything started. That's where Riley Gaines became famous, because she spoke out against it, because she had to swim against the guy when she was at Kentucky. So big doings. Title IX, the Trump administration doing its thing, man. I'm telling you right now, if we dodged such a bullet with that last election, can you? I can't even fathom where we would be right now. Just in the 120 days that Trump has been in, he has already changed the dynamic, really on the world stage in many ways, but not just. I mean, I don't even. I feel like I'm talking it down by saying it that way. The dynamic has drastically changed, domestically, internationally, in the energy sector, in the economy, in the military. I mean, my gosh, in just 140 days-ish, we have seen a sea change in both culture, economics, and everything. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the Title IX stuff is a good example, and the emboldenment of, Simone Biles and that whole, back and forth, that pretty much the entire internet came. Yeah, no, sit down, and no, we're not hearing it. So go back to your corner.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the way it is across the board.
Yeah, the world is quickly moving away from what became a fad, it's so obvious. By the way, the left, I've said it before, but the left never knows when to stop. The left doesn't have a governor on it. It doesn't have the ability to curtail itself. It doesn't have the ability. Well, there's no wisdom, and when you lack wisdom, you lack the kind of discretionary thinking that goes along with having wisdom. And when there's no wisdom, you wind up acting out all your fantasies and pursuing your most prurient interests, and you have no idea why that shouldn't be allowed. And next thing you know, you got gay pride parades where they're marching naked in front of children, which we just saw yesterday. And so all I'm saying is the left never knows when to stop. They don't. They have no ability to recognize when they have overstepped, overreached, overworked. And I think the whole transgender movement is an absolute example of that very thing. Go ahead.
Well, and I mean, along that lines, it's kind of weird. We're not used to, with the, you're talking about Elon and the rift and the issues we're having. That's kind of the way we are on the right, that like we actually are free thinking people and have disagreements, where we're used to seeing this uniform, I don't know, mind on the left that, use some common sense and think about things, at least question. And there's not been any of that.
Yeah. The left will say, you just march along, you people on the right, and jackbooted, unison. That's ridiculous. Have you seen the way that Pelosi rammed through the Inflation Reduction Act? Have you seen any of that? But yeah, so right now, going back to what I kicked off this breaking news piece with, and I guess I'm going to wind up taking it up to the break, is the University of Pennsylvania in responding to the Department of Education's pressure to resolve their Title IX violations has agreed to totally absolve themselves of their mistakes of the most recent past when they were allowing dudes to swim in girl sports. Leah Thomas, what was his name? Anyway, I can go with the name. Leah Thomas, a dude swimming in girl sports, setting records, claiming to be the one. And yeah, that's over with. They're going to be making public apologies, they say, on Outkick right now. I'm looking at the story. Outkick has it. And Outkick says the story is breaking as we speak. And there is a literal, like I'm looking right now, Mary Margaret O'Hallahan is saying that this is exactly what she voted for. There you go. All right. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, coming up, hour number 3. We'll be right back. Talk leader, Right Side Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Right Side Studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 already. Hour number 3 on a Taco Tuesday. So yes, indeedy, we're going to get you all the way to go home time. And coming up on the 4th of July weekend, I will go ahead and tell you guys that I have given the Right Side staff off on Thursday and Friday. So we will have a show playing, but it'll be a pre-recorded show on Thursday and Friday. Just be aware. Give us thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's the Right Side staff clapping in the background. They're very excited. Anyway, so that'll be on Thursday and Friday. So enjoy your time with your family. We will be doing likewise. I got grandkids coming to the house. I'm stoked. Yes, indeed. Making Captain America waffles. It's going to be awesome.
You got fireworks for them?
I do. And I have a Captain America waffle iron, in case you missed that part a minute ago. Captain America waffle iron. That's right. By golly, it's a thing. I make Captain America waffles. It's awesome. Raise those kids right. All right, we're going into, by the way, I just saw Graham from Meridianville just sent me a text. He says that Leah Thomas's real name was Will Thomas. And I don't know if Will Thomas legally changed his name to Leah Thomas. All I know is he did not change his gender. That's not real. But anyway, thank you, Graham, for squaring me away. Will Thomas, that was the dude's name because he's a dude. All right, let's talk about immigration. There's a lot of stuff in the immigration reconciliation. I mean, in the reconciliation bill we just passed, a big, beautiful bill in the Senate, which is now going back to the House. There's a lot of stuff in that bill related to immigration. But then there's a lot of things that have been happening in the periphery, if you will, that are related to immigration that still need to get reconciled. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call this the Reconciling Immigration Dipper. So that's where we are. Reconciling immigration. I've got a piece here, and Butters, I'm going to be calling for that audio clip number 1 here momentarily, that Tom Homan clip. So you give me the thumbs up when you're good on it. But one of the things that struck me was how much the left hates the fact that Trump is successful right now at gathering up and deporting illegals. They hate the fact that the Supreme Court came out in his favor. They hate the fact that he's able to, move legislation that gives him more ability to do it. Today, he was down in Florida. By the way, here's brand spanking new news. I'll tell you in a minute. He was down in Florida at what's now being called the Alligator Alcatraz. They took a former airstrip that I think had been a National Guard airstrip, Air National Guard airstrip for training or something. It's out in the boondocks. It's got swamp on like 3 sides of it with alligators. And so they're calling it the Alligator Alcatraz because no one's going to want to have to escape through those swamps. I don't think anybody's going to be escaping. Many detainees are going to be trying to escape anyway, but nonetheless, it does make for a great storyline. Trump went down today with Secretary Kristi Noem and met with Governor DeSantis, and they toured the new Alligator Alcatraz, which, by the way, they built in 3 weeks. It can house 800 prisoners, and they built that bad boy in 3 weeks. And if you look at it, it looks a lot like the images we saw of the Sikot prison in El Salvador. Aha. Aha. Big barrier fences, security lines, clear fields of fire, if you will. And then the interior of the buildings are just big caged areas with bunks inside of prefabbed buildings that are put up quickly. Boom, it works. They're going to be cycling people through there like Gitmo. I mean, it's going to be, they can hold 5,000. They can hold I guess it's 5,000? Anyway, a lot. One of the things that was said today, here's a piece of breaking news for you. Trump, in his comments about the Alligator Alcatraz, said that he loves the idea of building another one in Alabama. So you may well see, and what we call it here, it wouldn't be the Alligator Alcatraz. What are we going to call it? The old brother, where art thou prison? I don't know. It's going to.
None of the names that come to my mind are things I can really say on the radio.
We'll think of one. The Sweet Home Alabama prison. I don't know. It's going to have a name. But yeah, that could very well happen. Okay, something else happening in the world of immigration though that's really got people riled up. So there's an app, and I'm not going to name the app. So just bear with me. I'm not going to name the app because I don't want to give it credibility. But there's an app out right now that has been designed solely for people to track where ICE agents are in order to give people advance warning And many say what it can also do is put ICE agents at risk because it announces their locations for the purposes of, I don't know, maybe ambushes or protests. White House border czar Tom Homan, according to the Daily Wire, I hold it here in my callous former paratrooper hands. White House border czar Tom Homan on Monday slammed CNN for promoting an app that lets users track ICE agents, calling for the Justice Department to investigate the app. The app tracks the locations of ICE agents, asking all the users to pinpoint where ICE agents are. So, and then this could be anything. This could be, there's a raid about to go on here. We saw them staging. There's any number of things that it can do, but it can also, think about this. It can also set people up for an ambush. It could set people up for harm. We have seen roughly like a 500% increase in the assaults on ICE agents just since Trump took office. 500% increase. We've got one congresswoman who was just indicted for violence against an ICE agent, Representative Monica McIver, outside the Newark facility. But I got a clip here, Tom Homan talking about it. He was ticked. Now, if he names it himself in the audio clip, I don't recall if he does or not. So I'm not going to give it credibility by naming it myself, because that's one. CNN did a full feature on this. They did a full feature, and in doing so, it's almost as if they were touting it, making sure everybody knew it was out there. Go get you some of this app that helps you figure out where ICE is. Here's Tom Homan talking about it with Lawrence Taylor on Fox. Go ahead and play it.
Appears to be promoting the app, talking to the creator and doing a whole story on it. That is not sitting well with my next guest. Border czar Tom Homan joins me now. Tom, they've crossed the line here. This is out of control.
I know, it's just simply disgusting, and any network that covers that is disgusting as well. So I'm hoping DOJ steps in there and see if they cross that line of impeding federal law enforcement officers. Look, Lawrence, you and I talk about this. Assault against ICE is up over 500%. Now you got an app that's going to tell where ICE operations are going to be. It's only a matter of time for ICE agents are ambushed by some nut, like what happened in LA, throwing a Molotov cocktail, throwing bricks at these officers. This is just disgusting at every level. So I hope DOJ dives in this deeply, because, ICE is concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. This shouldn't be an issue anybody is against. So they're already a dangerous job going after the worst of the worst. These guys are putting their lives on the line every day going after the worst and worst international security threats. And this app makes it that much more dangerous. It's incredible that those who enforce law, all of a sudden they're the bad guys. The ones who break the law, they're victims. It's disgusting.
Why would CNN promote this? Why would they do a story on this?
I can't figure it out. I've been doing this for 4 decades. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's got to be they hate Trump more than they love law enforcement. Or I can't figure it out. But something needs to be done. I mean, you advertise this guy's app on a national TV network. That's just going to bring more followers, sick followers, to the app and use it. Again, letting the bad guy know ICE is coming. They're here. Here's where they're going next. This is dangerous for the men and women in law enforcement.
So true, Tom.
All
I want to get your
go ahead and stop it there. It is amazing, really. The idea that somebody would create this and put it out there and make money off of it, and there's no good reason for it except to basically expose ICE to more risk, more hazard. I mean, it's antithetical to good order and discipline of society. Fox News has a piece. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi criticized the CNN report, highlighting an app that allows users to alert people to nearby immigrations and customs enforcement sightings, warned the developer to watch out. The developer is a guy named Joshua Aaron, and Aaron told CNN the app allows anonymous users to share where they've seen the ICE agents, and then also include additional details like even the clothes agents are wearing or the cars that they're driving. Says Pam Bondi, Attorney General, our ICE agents and all of our federal agents who are working hand in hand on these task forces, our federal agents from the Justice Department, they could be injured. And he's giving a message to criminals, she said, where our federal officers are, and he cannot do that. And we are looking at it, and we're looking at him, and he better watch out, because that's not a protected speech. That is threatening the lives of law enforcement officers throughout the country. All right, like I said before, ICE acting director says there's been a 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents. How do y'all feel about this? I'd love to know.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's nuts. But It's just a sign of our times right now. And technology is wonderful, and then sometimes technology can be abused, and I think this is an abuse. Now, some will say it's a freedom of speech issue. Is it? I guess you have to look at intent. You can't walk into a crowded theater and yell fire and cause everybody to panic and somebody gets stampeded. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to incite violence. So what is the purpose? Well, if we see an ICE agent get targeted, which we may very well, if we see an ICE agent get targeted and we find out they were outed, so to speak, on this app, then right now we have no way of knowing who it was that outed them because it's all anonymous. You're just posting it in
at best it's aiding and abetting, right? I mean, at best I'm providing information to help people avoid,
to impede law enforcement.
To impede law enforcement. At worst, it's hey, I'm coordinating aggressive actions against law enforcement.
There's no other reason for it. It's not like this is like find Sasquatch. It's not like it's a human interest thing. Oh, we just want to know where they are. We love ICE agents. We want to be able to thank them. No, that's not what's happening. Hey, by the way, back to that alligator Alcatraz thing. The alligator Alcatraz has gotten some names. I got a bunch of y'all texting in already. So the Alabama version of this one, my favorite one, I think is going to wind up. Well, I see. Okay, we got the Gator Gitmo from Brian from Harvest. We got the Jeff P from Arab says the Rama Jamma Slamma. And then I think I like this one. Sam from Anderson calls it the Alabama Slamma. I think we just changed that to the Bama Slamma, or we call it the Bammer Slammer. But yeah, the Bama Slamma, I like it. I think it's got a ring, don't you? I see T-shirts. I see merch.
So where's it? Where do we put it?
Let's see. Find a spot that's like really fugly, like someplace where you don't want to go.
Well, there's no place like that in the state of Alabama.
There's very few. There's a couple. There is. Well, no, probably not. You want to do it in West Birmingham on the side of the old steel mills. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't be good. Where else could we'll find a place.
Stick it right in the most liberal areas of.
Did I say that? I didn't say it that way. That was your words. Tom, with all the kids from Huntsville, says somebody ought to make a spam bot that floods that floods that app with fake information. That's interesting. Jeff from Indiana is also checking in and says, Phil, I want a reverse ICE app that people can tell ICE where the illegal aliens are gathered. Sounds like a better app to me. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. More on this. I got stuff, man. You're going to want to hear what all was in that big, beautiful bill that deals with immigration. Lots of stuff. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Bill Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Man, pulling pins on truth grenades. Oh, yeah, giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker. That's what I'm saying. The Daily Fetched has a piece talking about immigration. The Daily Fetched has a piece that I find fascinating. Do you remember all the stuff last year about suddenly there were like busloads of Haitians showing up everywhere? Like you just have you'd be sitting there and a random van would pull up, and one of them was like in Sylacauga, Alabama. Van loads of Haitian immigrants were showing up looking for work. Like, how did the van load of Haitians get here? And at one point they were actually asked, how did you wind up in Sylacauga, Alabama? And they said they were told to come here. What does that mean? Well, what happened was this. The Biden administration did this just unbelievable thing where they did what's called a temporary protected status, where they decided there were certain countries in the world that were just unsafe for people to live in. Rather than trying to assist them or decide that maybe they needed to survive on their own, the Biden administration decided, let's just import them all. Because, it's always a good idea to import third world problems to your first world country, because that way it's better, right? Surely that's what happens. Well, 500,000 Haitians were brought to the United States. And when I say brought, they didn't come here illegally and then be allowed to stay. Some did, but for the most part, a lot of them were just asked, do you want to go to America? And they would say, sure. And they got tickets and they flew them here, plane loads, and they would land in ports of entry. And then, like in the case of Sylacauga, Alabama, be told there's a van leaving, get on that van. It'll take you to a place where you can find work and a place to live. And they would show up and they would hope for the best. They had no sponsors. It was the most asinine thing we've ever seen. Well, Trump's ending the program. So Daily Fetched has a piece that came out yesterday. President Donald Trump's plans have ramped up to include those under temporary protected status, targeting 500,000 Haitians, some of whom have held the TPS status for over a decade. Okay, some have, a lot haven't. Reportedly, 500,000 Haitians will now have their TPS terminated and face possible deportation. By the way, yes, Haiti is a freaking mess. Haiti has just gone to hell in a handbasket. It is a third world country in our hemisphere, and it is bad. And it's on the Isle of Hispaniola. If you're not familiar, Haiti and the Dominican Republic split the island in half, and Haiti has one half, and the Dominican has the other. Dominican's got its own problems, not like Haiti. Haiti, ooh, the Dom Rep folks don't even want the Haitians to come over the mountains. Please stay on your side. Thank you very much. You guys are crazy. Haiti is filled up with socio-cultural problems, economic problems, warlord problems, armed gang problems. Crime is rampant problems. People are starving problems. Yes, there is some measure of governance there, but it ain't good. Reportedly, 500,000 Haitians will now have their TPS status in the United States terminated and face possible deportation. Conditions in Haiti no longer warrant the status, says the Department of Homeland Security, which is basically the Trump administration way of saying Biden was way too easy on y'all. Go back home and fix it if you want to. So, yeah, it expires on August 3rd. Termination will be effective September 2nd. After that, they are very likely going to wind up seeing a deportation status falling in place. The Haiti Wire, which I guess is the news site down there, reported that TPS was initially granted after Haiti experienced its devastating earthquake back in 2010, which was significant, killed more than 200,000 people. But since then, TPS extensions have been repeatedly granted due to political and economic instabilities. That's going away. The freeload that the Biden administration just handed out to everybody is done. So there's a lot of other things happening. In the budget bill, there are parts built in that directly impact the ability of the southern border to be strengthened. We'll talk about some of those when we get back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Philadelphians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all. I'm talking about this show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about from all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio audience. Then there's all y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, watching us live stream every single day on places like YouTube, X, Facebook, Rumble, our own website, rightsidemedia.org, live stream the show, and then you podcasters. I say all that to say, at least 3 times a show, I do that rundown of where our audience all is, and you're everywhere. But you mean the world to us. You are the reason why we've been doing what we've been doing, which, by the way, is coming up on the 4th anniversary. The 4th anniversary of Right Side is going to be this weekend. I went live on the 5th of July 4 years ago. So very cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. You are a blessing. I got a bunch of text messages we'll be getting to in a moment. Let me just tell you this, though. A couple of things in the reconciliation bill that just went through the Senate and is now back at the House that deals with immigration. One of which is, it is said that the bill, and I've got a piece here from the American Immigration Council. They don't like it, by the way. They don't like it. But the American Immigration Council points out that it's going to supercharge immigrant detention. What does that mean? We're going to be building new facilities, and we're going to be giving ICE what it needs to actually detain people and not just release them into the United States willy-nilly. Go figure. So the bill would provide, if it passed the way it was before, and I think the immigration piece has stayed largely the same, up to $80 billion for internal immigration enforcement, including $45 billion just for ICE detention and $14.4 billion for ICE transportation and removal operations. What's that mean? Deportations. So it adds nearly $67 billion to the House is also planning to give to Customs and Border Protection, including another $51.6 billion for border barriers. So there's the wall. You remember last time, if you recall, Trump got stymied because he had to deal with a divided Congress, and he couldn't get the funding he needed for the wall, and so he was taking it from the Department of Defense. And then, if you recall, the Biden administration got in, stopped the building of the wall, and then allowed the pieces to just sit there and rot, and then sold them off for scrap. It was the most asinine thing. Why would you do that? You already had the money. It was already allocated. The materials had been purchased. The construction had been underway. You literally stopped the construction and then sold off the parts for scrap and then pretended that the border was secure. Unbelievable. But yeah, there's going to be all kinds of things in there. But the detention piece is a big one. There's a lot of money being spent for detention. So this thing we talked about a while ago about the alligator Alcatraz down in Florida, that's going to be just one. You're also very likely going to have one in Alabama. I just saw where U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville retweeted the story from 1819 News about President Trump saying Alabama could be one of the locations for the next. And then so I've already chimed in and said that, the Bammer Slammer appears to be in the works. So stand by for more on that. What you got?
Yeah, there's some discussion on YouTube of just using Dale Jackson's house.
Just using Dale Jackson's house. That's just we can just use his home studio, which I've been to before. Nothing but empty beer cans and dirty socks. It's all right. You can tell him I said that too. By the way, I'm looking at another piece here that I pulled. Where did I get this one from? Hang on one second. Check the paper, Phil. What have you got? Go back to page 1. I already flipped the page. I got this from the Federation for American Immigration Reform's website. It would also include $6.1 billion for border surveillance technology. We have a real issue. I mean, we've got drone capability. So do the drug cartels. They are using drones. For the first time the other day, I heard, and I'm trying to think who it was. Was it Senator Tuberville called in? And he said that we have a 17-to-1 ratio of cartel drones to American drones. We can do something about that. $4.1 billion to hire additional CBP personnel, including Border Patrol agents. $5 billion for Customs and Border Protection facilities. $2 billion for retention and performance bonuses and signing incentives for CBP personnel. I mean, it's a whole brand new day for them. They have been so beat up for the last 4 years. But then there's also a thing here that I think is really important. There's about $1 billion being allocated to support state and local law enforcement in their efforts to coordinate with ICE, to include something called Operation Stone Garden. Operation Stone Garden is $500 million to support cooperation between CBP and state and local law enforcement in general. Listen, there's a lot of stuff built in here. You know what's so amazing? They spent all that money on the green new steel. Did it change your energy rates, by the way? Did you see any change? Did your power bill go down? I didn't see any. Did your inflation rate go down? I didn't see it. Did you see eggs cost less? I didn't see it. Did you see anything happen except that the people who make electric school buses got big subsidies? Nothing that we saw. I mean, did they cure the racist roads? I don't know, because I don't know where they were. Did they put in the infrastructure for all the chargers, for all the EVs that we were going to have? They spent several $1 billion. What did they do? I think we got 8 nationwide. All that to say, there was a lot of money just thrown out there to do God knows what that didn't do a thing during the Biden administration. We're actually talking about measurable events right now. We're talking about money being set aside to, I don't know, maybe build a wall. I don't know, maybe hire some CBP agents. Things that we said in the election season were some of the most important things that could be done, absolutely, are in this bill. And I look forward to watching Secretary Noam and Tom Homan just go to town, man. Just get her done. What you got? You chiming in?
I was just gonna say I feel like we got our money's worth out of all the testing for flying our military airplanes off of biofuels. That seemed like a very, very useful thing to do.
I sense the sarcasm.
Just a little.
Okay.
Just a little, especially since we've been using all of those airplanes flying to where they make all of the oil.
I'm not sure if you heard too, but there was also a proof of concept already done on an electric version of an Abrams tank.
Sure. Why not?
Because, it won't take anything to charge that bad boy back up.
Are they using those electric buses to round up the illegals?
I doubt it, because they have range anxiety. Range anxiety is a thing.
Get out and push, guys.
Let me get a few text messages for the break. I'll take it. Start shutting this bad boy down here on a Taco Tuesday. Brian from Decatur says, I'm still waiting on arrests to be made en masse by this obvious criminal activity occurring. If any of us stole a pack of gum, we would get arrested on the spot. So what now? I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Are you talking about the illegal immigration piece or just things in general? By the way, there are arrests, and I think there's more coming. Dave from Capshaw. Okay, it's big. He says, back in the early 70s, when my dad was stationed in Germany, we lived in a small American housing area in Schwabisch Gmünd. Me and my 2 friends built model tanks with M80s in them, and we set up a battlefield in a field nearby and set off the battle. Next thing we knew, the MPs were coming towards us. They read us the riot act and said they would take us in, but they didn't. They didn't know who I'm not sure what the the initials are, but they didn't know who the bad guy was, I guess. He said, I piped up and said I knew who it was and told him it was my dad. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying. The officer. Okay. He asked why I would even tell him that. And I replied that I was brought up to tell the truth. So the MPs took me to my dad. My dad thanked the MPs, and I got my hide tanned. Well, good for you, Dave. You know what? Your dad still raised you right. How about that? Shag Nasty, the atheist. Where have you been? You just checked in for the first time in forever. Glad to see you. Shag Nasty is not at all put off by the ICE app and really wants us to go check out another one that's designed to basically find law enforcement in general. And then says if they took off their masks and wore uniforms, no one would need to worry where they are. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard about. I'll tell you what. Hey, Shag, when the Antifa rioters start taking off their masks, I'll be good with that. In the meantime, you guys quit doxing people and they won't have to wear masks. That's what that's about. The idea that people shouldn't have to do their job and then be threatened for doing their job, it's because of attitudes like yours that it happens. Yes, I just pointed the finger at you. Badger from Athens says, call it the Bama bunkhouse. Fair. Bama Bunkhouse. Kenan from Huntsville says ICE could flood the ICE tracking app with false info. I think they should. I think they ought to crash it. Let's just go ahead and say, here's 15,000 bots turning in ICE agents in places where they really aren't. Crash that app.
There you go, Doge.
Nice. Sam from Anderson, Alabama says, what do you say? Oh, the Alabama Slammer. Then he said, just kidding. We don't need that. Okay. We do need it. Why not? John from Huntsville says, turn Dale Jackson's house into a jail and build a moat around his house and filled it with gators because Dale's afraid of alligators. Call it Dale's Jail of Scaly Tails. You're reaching hard, John. That's almost a dad joke, man. Almost a dad joke. Last one, I'll go to the break, says Fritzy from Huntsville. I'll second Dale Jackson's house. And then he says, happy anniversary. Preaching the right way. Y'all need more large and extra large t-shirts, Fritzy. Fritzy, we'll do that, man. We'll get some more. In the meantime, we will take a break. Taking that break, last break of the day, coming right back. Go home time, you guys, on a Taco Tuesday. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, bulletproof influence. That's what we got here. Bulletproof influence. John from Huntsville has the grades in. He says Phil gets an A+ for his outstanding performance, which means today's winner with a perfect A++ is obviously the brilliant, magnificent Butters for getting everything absolutely correct today. Congratulations. Definitely your best performance ever. Nice, man.
Wow. Thank you.
You just like slammed it today, apparently. Even had a few laugh tracks and other things thrown in.
I try.
Jimmy jammied with some applause at one point. Good stuff. By the way, Dave from Capshaw told me the FOD is Field Officer of the Day. Is that like staff duty? And I think anyway, not a staff duty officer, Army-wise. Anyway, but nonetheless, there they are, Germany, Field Officer of the Day. I guess that was the head dude for the day who got stuck with the duty of then having his son be the one that the MPs brought in. So, Dave, thank you very much, and thank you for your family service. And then Matt from Madison says, how about Trump Towers South? There we go. Trump Towers
I like that.
South.
We were the squadron duty officer, the
Squadron
SDO.
SDOs. Okay, there it is. All right, let me go to the phones because he's there. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm lined up with the Batman building in Nashville, so I'm that's where I'm at.
the Batman building. What is the Batman building?
You've never seen the Batman building? Every time you come to Nashville, the first thing you see is the big AT&T building with the two spires on each side. It's called the Batman building here.
You know, I have seen it, but I never knew it was called that. And now I'll never forget it.
Oh, yeah, that's what they call it. Nighttime, it really looks cool because everything's all lit up and everything.
Nice.
Looks like something Batman would live in.
Well, at least we know exactly where you are right now.
Exactly.
Well, tell you what, think about this. If we had an alligator Alcatraz in Alabama, what would we call it? Do you have any idea? I mean, I know you're not a native of Alabama, but you're almost like a half native.
Well, I mean, gosh, like I say, if Dale Jackson was there, it'd just be called Dale Jackson's Fortress of Solitude because he'd never leave.
I don't know why Dale's getting picked on today, but I'm enjoying this. This is good. I'll have to call him and let him know it was a featured event on the show.
If you ever how tortured he is with alligators, you would know.
He is. It's like a thing. He even had a meme of himself wrestling an alligator the other day, and I thought you're just taking it a little too far, Dale. But there he goes. So big, beautiful bill, man. How do you feel about it?
I get annoyed when they sit there and say, you know, the CBO scores this stuff out so many years, you know, because, you know, the little secret is that it's any bill that the House makes and any law that make is only good for as long as the Congress is in session for that session, because the next Congress coming in can change the whole thing. So, you know, it's kind of a farce. It's kind of a thing, you know, to score this out so many years when it can be changed, you know, in the next Congress.
I mean, they still got to score it though, and they could change it, but that's like saying that you bought a brand new car and it was worth $40,000, and then a year later it depreciated, but when you bought it, it was still worth $40,000.
Yeah, I mean, you think about everything that just happened last time around when Trump was going smooth and steady, and then Biden come in, and then boy, you talk about things being changed. Look how much things changed then.
I'm telling you, listen, we got midterms coming up, and we better solidify some of this. In fact, if they think that if there's any chance they don't pass this tomorrow in the House, then I think we're going to have a hard time getting anything done before the midterms. And that's going to be, I think it's more dangerous for us to go into the midterms not having done these things than it is to have passed it. You know, there's some, like right now, Elon Musk is saying the midterms are going to be a bloodbath for us because of passing this bill. I don't think so. I think it's going to wind up being worse for us if we don't pass this bill.
Oh yeah, because let people's taxes go up, what, 60%?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to get reelected, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's the economy, and then there's the immigration piece, both built into the bill. Those were the two top issues in the election season. And so I think this bill winds up becoming very popular very quickly.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Congress to actually pass a budget, a standalone budget, not a continuing resolution. Do your job, Congress. I mean, you're elected to put up there, and just by passing the buck down the road, that's why we're $34 trillion in debt, and it's not going to get any better.
Well, I completely agree. And yes, I mean, that regular order of business has been missing. You know, it's what's interesting. I get aggravated with Alabama politics, and I was in it for, you know, a while, but I get aggravated with it. But one of the things that we do pretty well is Alabama has a requirement that we balance the budget. It's built into our Constitution at the state level. And that's why we don't have deficit spending. Now, like places like Illinois, they don't. California doesn't. Alabama does. So somebody got it right a long time ago.
Yeah, and that's why I'd like to know how long, who actually come up with this and everything. It must have been back in the 1800s or
No, it's
something.
1909. 1909.
89.
1909.
1909. Okay.
Yeah, it's been in place for a while. Now, I will tell you this: what Democrats did. So before the Republicans took back the House and Senate in 2010, when I got voted in, this first time we'd had a majority for 136 straight years. And what they were notorious for doing was they would pass a budget bigger than they could stand. And halfway through the year, the governor would have no choice but to declare proration and cut the budget in mid-year. And that's devastating because then all of a sudden things you were thinking you had, you no longer had. And so I like to always say, if you get prorated, your budget really wasn't balanced to begin with. But you haven't had that since Republicans took over. We've balanced the budget every year.
Well, give yourself an applause because that means a lot right there.
It does.
I mean, if the rest of the country would just go as Alabama had, and everything, where the Democrats are basically inept, we'd be all right. But we've got so many people out there that, basically almost half this voting population somehow thinks that the Democrats has got an ideal or a way of doing things, and it just I think we need some education in the general public.
Oh, we definitely do.
Have indoctrination.
Watch what's happening with this guy who got elected to be the Democrat nominee for mayor in New York City. My gosh, he's a case study in empty skulls full of mush having voting rights.
Yeah, like I say, everybody says, if you got the right to vote, you should vote. No, you should abstain from voting if you don't have a clue. I'm sorry.
I'm good with that. Can we put that on a bumper sticker somewhere? All right, brother. Hey, listen, the music is about to play, but you be safe on the road, and we're here tomorrow, so we'll talk to you then, all right?
All right. You all have a good one.
See you, man. See ya. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Part of the flavor of this show, by the way, are all the personalities. Jeff from Indiana, Emily Jones calling in, Lee from Huntsville, Butters sitting here coming in once a week and sitting on the board right now. And then all of y'all out there, a bunch of names that are just so familiar, even the ones that don't like what we say chiming in, like Shag Nasty the Atheist or Rich or some of the others, Kareem calling in occasionally. Listen, all said and done, bottom line is this show has developed an incredible following of people who track what we're saying and doing. And listen, that means a lot. We got the rankings back most recently, by the way, and it showed that our show had incredible listener loyalty. That's one of the analysis you could pull from it, is that people didn't just tune in, tune out. They tuned in and stayed in. And so I'm just telling you right now, I talk about all the time how much this audience means to us, but it does more than you could possibly imagine. So having said that, I know for a fact there's more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.